Hey guys, Swivel Wrists here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Mattel Masterverse Masters of the Universe Revelation Savage, He-Man, and Orko 2-pack. Now before we get into it here, let's first take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, Savage He-Man does come with a plethora of accessories. First up, Savage He-Man comes with two sets of interchangeable hands, the first of which is this pair of Kung Fu grip hands. The second of which is this pair of claw hands, well, whatever you want to call them, they're certainly not relaxed hands. That said, I do find it strange that this figure doesn't come with any fist hands, especially since this particular version of He-Man is well known for punching Skelegod right in the kisser. But hey, if you have the previously released MOTU Revelation He-Man, you could at least hook this guy up with one fist hand, so there is that, I suppose. Next up, Savage He-Man comes with a double-headed battle axe and spear. Now these are of course meant to be not only homages to his vintage figure, but also the vintage Alcala mini comics, so bonus points for that. And what would He-Man be without his trusty power sword? Not Savage He-Man, actually. Yeah, I do find it kind of ironic that they threw this in there instead of, oh, I don't know, the fist hands I mentioned earlier, but I'm also not one to turn down an extra power sword when it is included. And hey, you could always throw it in with your King Grayskull if you really wanted to, right? And last but certainly not least, Savage He-Man comes with Orko? ? Yet again, another odd choice considering the fact that both Orko and Savage He-Man shared absolutely no screen time whatsoever in the MOTU Revelation series, so it is kind of strange that Mattel decided to pack Orko in with Savage He-Man. But with that being said, it is nice to finally get Orko in this line, although I would have preferred a single carded release with a little bit more articulation and maybe some power effects, particularly the one he used to defeat my boy Scareglow, which I still have mixed emotions about, but it is what it is. That said, he does have a little bit of articulation in the head and in the arms. He can move in and out and whatnot. And then he also has some articulation on his little base here, which I can actually get mine to sit upright. I know some people, it's a little bit looser than others, but mine, for the most part, can sit up. So that is a bonus in my opinion. So with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at the aesthetic and articulation of Savage He-Man. Taking a closer look at our Savage He-Man here, and I'm gonna just get this right out of the way. My one point of contention with this figure is he has windmill action. Whee! 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 Yeah, not quite sure what happened here, but when I initially opened this guy, all the articulation worked fine, but when I was getting him ready for this review and trying to pose him around for potentially the final thoughts shot, something in his shoulder here shattered or cracked, you know, just like the Rolling Stones song. It shattered. And now he has windmill action and a little bit of rattle. Very, very little, but yeah, that's not ideal, and well, sucks balls. So at some point I'm gonna need to replace this guy. Other than that though, my dumb luck aside, I really like this figure. More so than I thought I would, despite his inaccuracies to the MOTU Revelation series. And while I don't believe we need a 12-inch Savage He-Man, that's a bit overkill, I do think we need one as big as Skelegod. And we'll bring him out for comparison a little bit later, but he's a little bit on the small side. That said, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think as far as like a concept figure goes, this is pretty cool. Albeit he looks more like a blonde Tarzan, or the perfect base body for a kick-ass Thundar custom, but at any rate, I like the figure. Despite whatever people think of it, I think it's still cool, and for the price point, I think you're getting what you're paying for here. But at any rate, as far as articulation on this guy goes, it's the same He-Man buck we've seen with the regular He-Man, who I'll also bring out for comparison a little later. But his head will rotate, kind of tilt up and down. It does pop off pretty easy, so if you wanted to, you could heat up this hair, pop the head out, and swap it with the other one to give him a more serious expression, but I'm not really into doing all that. Shoulders go out to the side, back down, and rotate all the way around. And for those of you wondering how I could have possibly broken this, and might jump to the conclusion that I was trying to be a budget Dr. Frankenstein and rip his arm off, this is all I did. This is literally all I did. And I do this to make sure the articulation works on all of my figures. So, for any of y'all smartasses go talking shit in the comments, just know, this is all I did. So shut up. But with that said, he does have a bicep swivel, double joint at the elbow. I will say, well, it's not too pretty on this upper joint on the back here. The cut in the front is relatively clean, as far as I'm concerned. At least compared to the He-Man, it's not as deep of a cut here, it doesn't feel. So that's different. I don't know if this guy has any new parts other than maybe the shins and of course the loincloth and the head, but almost feels like maybe his arms are a little bigger. Maybe. I don't know. That said, he does have hinged swivel wrists, albeit with the wrong hinges on the grip hands. I am going to bitch about that until it is no longer an issue. Deal with it. Because it worked on a lot of other lines, just saying. It does have the torso cut here. That works okay. Moves forward and back. It tilts side to side. No rotation, really. It does have a waist swivel. His hips can kick out to the side. Do perfect splitsies, better than Spider-Man. Kick forward, almost better than Spider-Man. He's got a thigh cut, double joint at the knee, which looks pretty clean as well. That's the thing, the Masterverse, they're not perfect, but they're relatively clean compared to some figures as far as the cut joints go. He's got a calf rotation, which looks atrocious, so we're not going to be using that at all. Would have rather this was just one molded piece, much like the Beastman from this series. I would have preferred if this was just a solid piece, because there's no armor to hide this cut. When you turn it, your legs don't move like that. Not to mention it looks like Leatherface just took the saw to his leg. That said, he does have a hinge in the foot with a rocker joint, his little baby toeses, and peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So, pretty standard Masterverse figure. Again, I would like to see a more show-accurate Savage He-Man, but this is fine. I think this is a cool figure. But, it does have its issues, especially with, you know, windmill action there. Because while I do like the Masterverse line as a whole, it's not perfect. I said it in my Beastman review the other day. The price point is, for the most part, okay with a lot of these. I think it might have been a little bit high with Beastman, but it is what it is. But as far as like the articulation goes, I think this upper torso would benefit from being made out of PVC. The torso in general. And we have like a double ball peg situation going on here and in the neck. Other than that, I don't really see anything else they need to improve upon. They improved the hips quite a bit. Compared to the first wave, these are excellent. These are really good. And a lot of the cuts are relatively clean. Like the thigh cuts are okay, the calf cuts are okay, the bicep cuts are okay. It's just that some of the QC could be a little bit better. Other than that, I would say between these and Marvel Legends, these all the way. So, while they may not be perfect, I still think they're better than those. With that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is Savage He-Man and Orko next to the standard release of He-Man from the MOTU Revelation series and the deluxe Skelegod, which, if you guys want something to bitch about, how about that Skelegod over there? And while I do agree that Savage He-Man should be the same height as Skelegod, at the very least, I still really like this figure. Next up, here they are alongside Teela and Andra, and hey, at least Savage He-Man's taller than them, right? Not by much, but it's better than nothing. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus, of its spawn, as usual, towers over everyone, and even if that wasn't the case, I still think that good old Al Simmons here would be more than a match for Savage He-Man because he throws down with giant characters on a daily basis, and last I checked, Savage He-Man is no Cygor or Overkill. So with that being said, time to wrap things up, some final thoughts. Overall, and even though the right arm on my Savage He-Man figure totally shit the bed, I'm gonna write that off as an isolated incident and say that, yeah, I do still really enjoy this set in all of its oddness, because I'm not gonna lie, guys, this is an odd release in the Masterverse line with Savage He-Man's inaccuracies and the fact that these two shared absolutely no screen time in the MOTU Revelation series aside. If you're like me and appreciate a good concept, then I'm fully confident in the fact that you will absolutely 100% enjoy this set. You get plenty of accessories for the price point, which, considering what Hasbro's charging for some Marvel stuff nowadays, I don't think that's all that bad. Granted, I'm not opposed to a more show-accurate version of Savage He-Man and a more articulated version of Orko with more accessories, but for the price point and for what we have, I enjoy what we have, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. In case you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil. The world sucks enough as it is, especially when shit breaks and you don't know why. I mean, why, man? And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.